It's spring practice day one and the biggest day in the history of Nebraska football.
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are blessed. We are good. Thank you. I'm DP. We are blessed and lucky. Today is day one of spring football practice. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch. Listen each and every single day here on the Locked On Sports Network. Greatly appreciate them for what they do. And then for the folks from FanDuel Sportsbook, America's number one sportsbook. That's right. Number one. New customers, no sweat, first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. More details, jump down, FanDuel.com/lockedon for more details. The official sports betting partner of the National Basketball Association. Make every moment more on FanDuel Sportsbook. The app is safe. It's free. Do it. Do it. Do it now. Jump down. Subscribe, like, make sure you get the notification that a new episode has gone up. And I'm just telling you, for the rest of the month, we're going to be at you every day, throwing these blows, taking you through spring practice. Lincoln, Nebraska. Again, lots going on. Today was the first day. Find your inner peace. Find your red Kool-Aid. Sip it slowly. We've got along with this is a marathon and not a sprint. Don't try to chug all the Kool-Aid at once, Husker fans. I know your consumption needs are that you need to just and throw it all over your face. But I'm going to ask that you slowly roll, pump the brakes, calm down, and let us take you through it. As the mantra says, day by day, they get better and better. And day one is the day where they will never be another day one for spring practice. Day number one for Matt Rhule in a practice situation and a team situation. Day number one for this Huskers roster, which we will go over because there are changes in that roster. So through this episode, we'll talk a little bit about Matt Rhule and his presentation today at spring practice and the presser that followed. And then we'll get into some changes that affect the roster. Some of them names that you're familiar with. And some folks have moved around. So we'll talk about that as well and then set the table for the rest of the week on Locked On Huskers and Huskers spring practice. Coach Rhule and the Husker local media stood in front of each other for the first time since his reign began after he saw his group in an actual football practice. Now, yes, spring conditioning and spring practice, spring camp is a different beast than summer camp and preparing yourselves for the regular season. It's a different deal. But as I've been telling you on this very podcast, that the journey that we're all about to go on is one of learning and relearning. Matt Rhule had an opportunity today to see his roster as it currently stands, currently at 99. Some have it at 95, some have it at 97, some have it at 99. I think in fairness, it lands, whatever number it is, it's not 85. And that means additional changes have to be made in this roster as we go. And some will happen as a part of what happens at spring camp. You'll start to evaluate. You'll start to get eyes on. You'll start to become more familiar with who the young people are as football players rather than as people. Again, December until March, a lot of it is recovery, knowledge, getting people acclimated, getting people set. And that includes the coaches. And so to tell you that this was the first day where the coaches had to get together, work in unison, talk in unison, speak the same language, and do it collectively on the fly, on the run as you go. Matt Rhule, as he stood in front of the media, there were a couple of things in play. Now, mind you, this is early in the morning. So this was an early practice. And Matt Rhule was specific in that he's not necessarily a fan. It's not necessarily his style to want to go at 6 o'clock. But for the convenience of the student athletes and players that have assignments and things going on, folks who came back from a break and they had a lot of other stuff going on, this was the easiest thing. He also wanted players to have Easter Sunday off. So in order for their rotation to work as it needs to fulfill itself, that they get this one in at this time to get folks used to the conditioning and the ability to reset your clock and redirect. He said he didn't sleep last night. He said he was up till around 1 o'clock, just brains on. And he said finally he woke up again. He got to sleep around 1 and woke up around 4, a little after 4. And there's a lot in play. And as a coach, day one is different than any other day in your coaching calendar. Day one of spring and day one of summer camp, they're just different. There's so many questions. So many, not so much doubts, but just uncertainty. There's a difference between what your knowledge of a thing and then your experience of a thing. He has zero experience with this team, and he has minimal knowledge. He has film study knowledge of the players that are in play. He has personal knowledge of who they are and his engagements and interaction. But day one is important because it's on the fly. As much as you script it, it goes off script, and as much as you plan it, it's affected by the unplanned. That's what day one spring practice is all about. Can you adjust? Can you adapt? Can you assimilate yourself into a new space on a new timetable with new verbiage? And then can you acclimate yourself so that you're comfortable doing the things that are required of you on that day? And there are a lot of folks who have been watching film on what previous Matt Rhule offenses have done. But today's the first day that Matt Rhule got to see this group work collectively at the things that are going to carry him for the next 20 days. The build up to April 22nd is important because it is an introductory period for the coaches. It is an introductory period for the players, and it is an introductory phase period for the fan base, who may not know some of the names that they've heard. They've seen film, they've heard them talk, they've seen them on social media, but you haven't seen them doing the one thing that they're going to be asked to do, which is play football. You've seen a whole lot, but today was the day that as a group, as a collective, they played football under the end and got some work done. We'll throw the break there, and I just want to point out that this conversation doesn't end. I wanted to get into some other things, but I think before we get to the roster stuff, that we need to spend more time with Matt Rhule and what he had to learn today. There was a lot in play. I just want to say there was a lot in play. Again, make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA and America's #1 sportsbook. Again, new customers get no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. More from Locked On Huskers when we return. Hey, gang, it's Derrick Pearson. Once again, thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day on the Locked On Sports Network. Greatly appreciate you. Your second watch. Grab your bracket and go listen to Locked On College Basketball Bracket Breakdown with national analysis and insights from local experts. The Locked On College Basketball Bracket Breakdown has everything you need for the most informed decisions on your bracket. Find the episode on for Locked On College Basketball Bracket Breakdown wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. We were talking about Matt Rhule and day one of practice and the things that you're going to find out along the way. Now, sometimes the honeymoon period of coaching is after the signing and the big pep rally that you have, and then it becomes a series of pep rallies, and then it becomes a marketing tour, and then it becomes a promotional tour, and then it becomes fundraising, and then you get to the actual management, the operation, the day by day, the daily operation that is college football, especially at the University of Nebraska. And I'm going to say this, And this may rattle some folks, and you can agree or disagree. Go ahead and put your comments down in the comment section. But I would imagine this, that today was eye-opening for Coach Matt Rhule. That he found some things today, good and or bad, that shook his perception of what all of this was about. Like in your head, what you think Power 5 football is about. Well, there's a difference between Baylor and Nebraska. There's a difference between Waco and Lincoln, Nebraska. And I've been in the Baylor media circle. I've been in that room. And I have to tell you, it's a little different than Nebraska's. The conversation between the media before the presser began was the collection and accumulation of media folks, and exactly how fascinating it was that it is that number of media people covering this program. I've been around media rooms all over the country. And Nebraska is different in a sense that there seems to be a want and a need to be intimate with the program at a level that can border on uncomfortable. And if you're a coach who's used to having distance and space between you and the folks that cover what you do, well, Nebraska's a little different because everybody's connected. It's small town business and big world business, all in the same space. And so there are folks who come in from the outside. I've had the assistant coaches speak to, man, this is different. People care. I mean, again, how many folks are bringing out that number of people for a spring game? I mean, how many people? There's two handfuls of programs that can expect more than 50,000 folks for a spring game. Nebraska's one of them. As a matter of fact, Nebraska will make every attempt to sell out the spring game. And the whole point of all of this is to reintroduce and relearn this Nebraska program, because the program is having a redirect. This is a redirect. Some people will call it a rebuild. Some will call it, starting over. Some will call it reproduction. But I would say this: it's a redirection. It's a redirection. It cannot be what it has been recently to be what it's supposed to be, nor be what it was in the past. You have to change location and elevation. Location tells you where you are. Elevation tells you the depth of what you're trying to do, up or bad, good or bad. They have to change both. How they're doing business, and then what the mission and standard is for that. And if you're not doing both, you're going to be in a difficult situation because your location tells you that you're in the bottom third of the Big Ten Conference. Change your location and change your elevation. The two have to happen together. You cannot just say that we are good where we are and we're going to stay here. No, Matt Rhule has said publicly and otherwise that, you know what? This is a new regime. This is new leadership. This is a new focus. So you have to give it time to change location and elevation. All right, here we go. So we understand it. Today, Matt Rhule got to see the Huskers that existed a year ago on this roster, who are still on this roster. He got to see them move in his own ballet for the first time. Not in drills, not in social media contests, not in team building and team bonding. No, this was football. And seeing your people, the people that you're less to work, the clay that you have to mold with, seeing it for the first time, whether it's pliable, does it accept change of direction, location, because that's not always the case. And with 99 people on the roster on scholarship and having to get to 85, 14 people, at least 14 players are auditioning. They auditioned Monday morning. They're under the watchful eye of those coaches and groups and other players to see whether trust and dependability exist in them so that they can be a part of the roster going forward. And I guarantee you this, that once you get to 85, you're going to have to go below that, because there will be needs. When you change the 99, you're going to have to actually change 80 through 85. So it's not just 14 people. It's probably more than that. And you're trying to see, have they recovered? Have they done the work? Are they faster than they were? Are they stronger than they are? Are they more knowledgeable than they were? Are they working harder than they were? And then there are new players that you've seen in other systems and under other people's whistle, under another horn, and seeing how they react and respond in this space. How are they adapting and assimilating themselves to Lincoln, Nebraska, and wearing the N? Today was eye-opening for Matt Rhule. I guarantee you that he's more knowledgeable today than he was yesterday about the task at hand and the talent under his watch. I'm not going to speak for him when it comes to assessing talent or trying to figure out whether the talent that he has matches the system that he wants to use and put it in play. We'll get that information over the course of all the days up to April 22nd, maybe even April 23rd, after the spring game where we actually get to see the product. It's going to be an interesting spring. It's going to be an interesting next month. And again, we'll repaint the picture because I'm still trying to figure out exactly what is it that this program is supposed to look like on April 23rd to make Husker Nation happy, to make them satisfied. Hopefully, we'll get to see them actually in action over the course of the week. I believe Wednesday we might be able to get to see what's going on. But as soon as we know, we'll share that information with you. Let you know what we see. Not always sure along the way. Again, thank you for adding Locked On Huskers to your first watch and listen each and every day. Please go through college basketball bracket breakdown. Locked On College Basketball Bracket Breakdown. Go find it on YouTube or wherever you consume your podcast. More, we'll close out. Locked On Huskers when we come back. Hey, gang, thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. And again, we thank the folks from FanDuel. Look, lots that you can do in this space. Again, with March Madness, NBA playoffs are coming up. Major League Baseball is about to start. A few weeks away from that as well. There's tons. UFC, there's lots of fan work that you can do on FanDuel.com. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, and you'll get more details on all the things, whatever way you engage in sports and whatever way you enjoy sports. Jump on FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. We were talking about day one. And I can tell you from the high school level that the meeting after spring practice #1 is the most important meeting of every coaching meeting that exists in the course of the year. That is closely followed by Exit Day meeting at the end of season, the end of the previous season. And then the meeting after spring day #1, because there were boxes that were checked and boxes that were unchecked. Boxes checked were boxes where you saw players healthy that you weren't sure about. In the case of Monday's practice, Matt Rhule spoke in glowing terms of Thomas Fidone and his health. Now, he will still keep him on a play count and kind of a structure. There's certain players with injuries who will wear green jerseys and not be put under that sort of contact. Nick Heinrich wasn't there. There were several players who didn't participate because of recovery and injury. There were several players, surprisingly, who we were told and informed that they were no longer a part of the program. Nebraska native James Carney being one of those players. Chris Hickman being one of those players that we were told that they are no longer part of the program. When you hear names like Tyreek Johnson and saying, okay, he's no longer part of the program, that Anthony Grant and look, let me pause there, because the Anthony Grant thing hit me as a gut punch, because so much of the offseason talking, this is why spring practice is so important, because some of the stories that are shared on spring practice day one are supposed to move the needle. And if Anthony Grant is not in the running back room on day one, for whatever reason, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. And I would imagine that it's not just one thing, but it's day to day for both Anthony Grant and Tommy Hill. And so there's some things that they have to collectively do. This is from Coach Rhule, that there are things that have to be done. There are some responsibilities that have to be met in order for them to be in good standing to be able to practice. I'm 100% sure that we will find out what those are over the course of the next few days. And then I try not to speak for the young people. I'm pretty sure at some point they will speak for themselves on what was going on, and they will share what they want to share and not share what they don't want to share. Casey Thompson was not a part of today's activities as far as actually throwing the football. There were a lot of players. Now, I can tell you Gabe Urban walked in to the presser, and he looked like a Sunday running back. Like if we were in another building, another football building, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a running back. That's an NFL running back right there. That's the look of it, which means he's put in work from December, since time of his injury, and December, his recovery to today. He's put in work. He looks healthy. He had the long stride, wonderful bounce in the gait, all of those things. Chest out, shoulders drawn back. He looked like Superman walking through the building. We saw Ethan Piper today. He talked to the press about what's going on the line and sharing his love for Coach Rhule and what they're working on. He's fully engaged and actually impressed. Luke Reimer was captain a year ago, talked about it, and Reimer, coming off his own injury, said he felt really good, and that they're learning, and there's some transition because he's going to be asked to do some different things than he was a year ago, but he felt pretty comfortable in that. We actually got to see Mr. Harburg today, and I applauded because he walked through the room as though he looked like a Division I quarterback. Now, conversation, that leadership, that internal thing, that real belief thing, yeah, he'll step up to that. He'll have to expand his chest a little bit to grow into that number one quarterback sort of vibe. But it was good to see at least these members of the team and see the head coach in that space. It was important to see Matt Rhule's coaching arrogance. You need it. His confidence and his ability to communicate, his belief in what he's doing, and the people that will be doing it for him. It was good to see those talented players walk through the door and engage and share insight and information with the media. We'll find out more, and as we find out more each day, we will share that with you here on Locked On Huskers. Thank you for allowing Locked On Huskers to be your first watch and listen each and every single day. Greatly appreciate it. Your second watch and listen should be Locked On College Basketball. Isaac and Andy will take you through and get you ready. March Madness, of course, you're in the middle of it, and it's just coming in waves. But check in, and they will tell you more about how to go forward. Sweet 16 time, maybe they can help you. And don't forget to find out, peek in on the women's game as well. But Locked On College Basketball on YouTube or wherever you consume your daily podcast. Again, thank you for making Locked On your first watch of the day. We'll close with the three words that, spring ball. Those three words that say it better than any other three. Go Big Red.